Well, hello.
Tang!
I am Mr. McIntosh.
William.
Mr. William McIntosh. Excuse me.
Yes. That's okay.
I've just been corrected by my manager on my left. I am Geoffrey McIntosh's father. I am Evelyn's father-in-law. And I am Fiona's granddad. Now I'm going to tell you a story. It's my life story. And it might take just a little while to tell you. I was born in 1932 in Edinburgh in Scotland. I was born in Princes Street, Maternity House. My father was a Geordie, comes from Newcastle. My mother was a Scotch lady, come from Edinburgh. Lived in Scotland until I was 4 years of age, and I came down to England when I was 4. And I always remember we used to live in what we call flats, apartments to the American people. And I always remember the first day I went to school, and I was holding my mother's hand, and I went into the nursery class in that school, and I stayed at that school till I was 14 years of age. But during that time, then 14 years, up to 14 years of age, war was declared, and I remember war being declared in 1939. And I remember trouble and strife before that, when we used to live in flats, and there was people living around us who we didn't get on, and mothers used to fight one another in the street, which is true. And I seen my mother fighting with another woman in the street. I'll never forget it. Anyway, time went on, and then the war years come, and then we had the air raid shelters. And I always remember going to school during the early hours in the morning. But we used to have dinners at school like you have dinners at school now. But we used to have early breakfast as well. And we used to go at 7 o'clock in the morning for breakfast, and then stay there with minders until we went to school, back to school again at 9 o'clock. That was very early on in war. And as time went on, you got used to living with war. Surprised, you don't think you will, but you do. And you settle down to a life that you've never had before. And can I just say that England was the first country in the world to be attacked by guided missiles. That was from German rocket V1s and V2s. But just to get back to when I was a kid, we used to go to school at 9 in the morning. We couldn't be late. We daren't be late. But every kid wanted to do paper rounds, they wanted to do milk rounds. Well, my joy was doing milk round. And I used to do a milk round. It's 7 in the morning till about 8:45, and then go to school at 9 o'clock, and then finish at 3:30 in the afternoon. And then on the Saturday and the Sunday, I used to work all day Saturday on the milk round and all day Sunday. And then go back and do the same thing. Like on the Saturday though, I used to go down to the stables and get the horse out and get it all set up for the cart, put the cart on it, walk it round to the dairy and load it up with milk and everything like that. And then go out with a fella called Albert Kelsey. And we used to have the old churns of milk, big churns, on the back of the cart with milk bottles. And we used to fill some of the milk bottles up out the churn. But mostly, when you used to go around in them days, people used to come out with a jug and used to get a quart measure and measure a quart of milk out. And then you get a gallon. There's 8 gallons, 8 pints to a gallon in the milk business and all that. And there's gills, what you call a gill of milk. And a gill of milk was half a pint, and you used to pour it into a pint, then pour it out so you could just see the bottom of that, and then pour it into a jug for some old age pension. We used to get tips and all that doing that. But as time went on, you got old and you did other things, and you played football in the streets in the dark with little tennis balls on cobbles, and you used to use the gas lamp. When the man used to come round and light the gas lights, waiting for him to light the gas lights, and used to play under them lights. And then as time went on, they made double British summertime where it was light till 12 o'clock at night. And this was to stop the German bombers from coming over during the war in the daylight, and it also helped the farmers to get the harvest in during the summer period, so to be able to feed us, and to be able to feed the fathers, because before we'd all left their families. And we used to enjoy them nights like that, but it was very frightening. But we used to make our own games, but we didn't have television. We only had radios, and radios were very few and far between in them days because people couldn't afford them. And some of them used to work them off batteries with an aerial going right outside the house, right the way to the top of the roof and pick them up. Or with a cat's whisker that you used to catch. Well, I remember us having a little cat's whisker that you just tuned it into a crystal. You used to have your earphones on and you used to tune it in until you could hear it. Keep tuning it around, twisting it around until you could hear it. And we used to have what we call accumulators and take them back to the electricity shop. And they used to charge them up, and then used to take them home and then connect the battery onto the radio again, and then it used to get radio things. But we used to listen to Children's Hour and them things, and we used to listen to the German bombers coming over. And we only used to get a week's summer holidays in them days. You didn't get much of that. And you could bet your life, as soon as you finished school on a Monday night, the German bombers would be over. You know the German bombers, because the German bombers used to hum and used to go. That was the sound of the engine. You knew that because that was the way the German aeroplanes used to be like that, and coming over, and then you used to run round to the shelters. And the shelters were only concrete, just brick walls with concrete pillars over the back entries, what we call back entries. And these back entries were the entries to terraced houses, all went down in lines, and they just built this concrete thing going right the way down the back of the houses. And you used to spend time in there, night after night, with German bombers coming over, and the incendiary bombs and the shells, and you could hear all the guns going off and searchlights going off, and you used to be in there till 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning. But you still went to school. You still got up and had to do it. People had to go out and do the normal thing. And after that, you just had to go back to school, then carry on. But in them days, in them schools, you didn't have no hot water in the houses. You had no inside toilets, no bathrooms, so you had to make the best of it. And I remember personal experience of washing my kids in the washer. In the washer. But we used to have a big galvanised bath that we used to have hanging on a nail in the backyard. What we used to call the backyard, the small backyard. And a coal shed at the bottom. Didn't have gardens or anything like that. And we used to fill this tub, and one day there was a hole in the tub. Well, you couldn't get any galvanised baths, so you had to get these repair kits that you could lock the hole up at the bottom. But it always used to leave this stud staying up, and everybody used to fight to get down to the other end of the bath, so that thing would stick up the hook. And then, but to get back to when we were children, as I remember when we were children, we used to make our own games. And we used to go around, and you won't know this in America, but they know it in England, well, in Manchester, Lancashire area, as Molly dances kicking up around, kicking up around, kicking up around, Molly dances kicking up around, my fair lady. That used to go around. We used to go around and do that to the doors and dress up in all sorts of things, net curtains and all sorts, because we couldn't get things in them days, just like. But we used to have what we call whipping tops. Just a wooden piece of wood like that, and a stick with a piece of string on, and you used to put it round its top under your knee and pull it, and it used to be a whipping top. And you used to call window breakers or coloured ones, and you used to paint all different coloured chalk marks on the top, and you used to home this lovely pattern and that. And then there was the other things we used to do, what we used to call piggy. It was a piggy with a stick and a piece of wood that was withered off at each end. And you used to have to hit that piggy and hit the piggy as far as you could and see who could hit the farthest, and you used to go up there and then who could hit it all the way back down again. But there's other things that we used to do. We used to do what we call realio, and realio was one used to set out, and there used to be we weren't gangs, we were just children that was just having games. There weren't no such a thing as gangs in them days. Never knew what gangs was. But if it was a gang, it was just all harmoniously, and we all used to play together, boys and girls, and used to call it realio. One used to set up, catch one, hold that person's hand, and then it was two until you got all the way around, and then you gathered all of them, and then that was the end of the game. Then you used to play kick can. You used to put a can in the entry, and and the one that was on used to run up and kick the can right down the entry. Then he'd have to run down that entry, get that can and pick it up, put it back on the spot where it was kicked, and then go and search for people like hide and seek. And that's what we used to call kick can. And then the other one that was we used to call curb or wall. You used to get up against the wall and somebody used to shout on the other side and used to say, what's the name curb, what's the name wall, and what's the name off this wall used to run to the curb, from the curb to the wall, over the other side of the street, back again, but the other one used to have to run over the other side of the street and back again to try and beat the one that was doing the curb, or the one that was doing the curb try to beat the one that was coming over to the other side of the street. That was another good game. We couldn't get footballs or anything like that, but football was quite good in them days, good players. But you couldn't get shoes, all your food was rationed. You only allowed so many ounces of toffees. You couldn't get cheese or anything like that. That all went to the miners. And when you went out and all your food was all rationed, your potatoes, you went out, if you weren't registered with the greengrocer, what we call greengrocer, I don't know what you call them in America, you had to go and say, who you are, I'm Bill McIntosh, I've come from my mum, I want £10 of potatoes. Have a look down there, see if you on his list, you say, okay, you can have £10 of potatoes. And you used to get them £10 of potatoes, and then you used to give a little bit of business to another greengrocer and go, now, oh yeah, we can, yeah, he's out one of ours, give him £10, so you used to get £20 of spuds. That's if you can afford it. I mean, people's wages in them days were very poor. They were only about £3.50. I remember you could buy a two-wheeler bike in a shop window for £3.50 when I was a kid, and that was a man's living wage in them days, a man's living wage. And people used to have to make do with different things and make coats out of old jackets and all sorts and all that sort of thing. And I went out with a jacket that was a different colour here and two different colour sleeves, so it must have been something different in them days. I looked a fool, but it was bloody warm during winter, so you just had to put up with what you could get. In them days there was no such thing that you could just walk out and buy a pair of shoes or go out and buy 20 cigarettes, because you couldn't. You used to get 10 cigarettes a week from the corner shop or wherever you could get it. And then there was the time that all the coal shortages, there was sugar shortage, but we didn't starve. We didn't starve. We all had good diets, and we all lived good lives, and we all got on with one another. And nobody ever went in anybody's houses. Everybody used to walk away in them days and leave all the front doors open and just walk away and go away for an hour, and you come back and your house is still there. But other people would keep their eye on the street and all this. And then during the war, we used to, the coal shortage, we used to clean out the fires. When the fire had gone out overnight, you come downstairs and you just get all the ashes out, and you pick every little bit of ash and put it all to one side and get all the dust, put that out, put it away. And then you used to get your paper down and your wood on the top, and then you used to get your little bit of coal, if you had any coal in them days, and all these ashes, and put it on, light the fire, put a shovel up against the foot and put a paper up like that. More times out than not, it used to catch fire and go up, all up the front of the fireplace, all the paper, and you used to just have to do with that. But I remember when we were kids, we used to go on a place called Briggs's Pond, and that was just in Manchester, and all the wagons used to come back from the power stations, and you just have to excuse me, I'm just going to have a little bit of a tipsy, it's a bit of whiskey. Thanks very much. When we used to go down to Briggs's Pond, and we used to dig up for these bits of coke that was on the dumps. All these wagons used to come back from the power station and dump all the clinkers down. You used to dash, everybody used to jump on that wagon when it tipped up, and you had to go and pick all these things up and fill the sacks up. And sometimes you just go around and sell them maybe sixpence, or well, I'm afraid I'll have to just call it a draw for the moment. See you in about 5 minutes. Thank you.